Lambda lets you run your code anytime, anywhere. Today we're going to go through the fastest and easiest way to develop Lambda functions from vsCode. I made a video about this topic about a year ago, and since then I found a much better way to do it, so this is an updated version of that video. If you're not familiar with Lambda functions, they can be used for a wide variety of things, from a single function building a simple Twitter bot to being the building blocks for a whole distributed application, like an online bookstore. One of the biggest challenges people initially run into when developing in the cloud is how to get the code from their local machine up into AWS. Now, if you've tried doing this so far, you've likely gotten confused because you don't know how to get it from your local machine to AWS, or you've tried using the IDE in the Lambda console and you've realized all the shortcomings there is. Like, what do you do when you want to import a package or build a whole application? That it just does not work. And so do not use the console if you're thinking about it. Don't do it. We're going to show you the easiest way to do this inside of vsCode. We're going to break down how to run your code locally. That way you don't have to wait for it to deploy every time you want to test your code. We're going to go over environment variables. We're going to go over setting up a cron job. All the basics that you need to know to just get your feet wet and started in Lambda and AWS. But these concepts that we're going to go over are really going to also give you the building blocks to start building larger applications in AWS. If you're just here for a Lambda function, don't be intimidated. You're gonna be able to ingest it and digest what we're saying as well. So without further ado, let's get right on into it. What we're gonna do is follow along with these steps. We are gonna install Serverless Framework, write the file and function. We're going to deploy to AWS. Gonna show you how to run your code locally and debug. How to use environment variables, how to debug once you're in the cloud. This is especially helpful if you're running in production, as well as how to schedule a cron job, which if you're not familiar is just saying, I'm gonna run my code at a regular interval. Great, I'm gonna move that aside and we're gonna hop into it. If you guys want to go ahead and do this yourself, Serverless Framework has some good documentation for getting started. Go to serverlessframework.com. And that is what we're going to be using today. Serverless Framework's great. We can dive into another video if you guys are interested. Just let me know. But what we are going to do is we're going to get going. So I'm going to make a new folder. Going to call it my first Lambda. Great. I'm going to go ahead and drag this puppy into vsCode. This is going to open up a vsCode file. You can do open up a terminal. Let's go ahead and make this bigger for you guys. There we go. Okay, great. So what we need to do first is install serverless frameworks. If you've already done this once, you do not need to do it again. What we're going to do is npm install -g serverless. And what this is going to do is globally on our system, it's going to install serverless, which is just the underlying tools that we're going to use. If you just want it on this project, serverless, there we go. If you just want it on this project, don't use the -g. And another little side note, if you're wondering what that autocomplete that I'm using is, it's called Fig. It's an awesome little tool, just Fig, F-I-G. And it is autocomplete in the command palette. Started using it a little bit ago, really enjoy it. Okay, so serverless is downloaded. Next, what we need to do is make a serverless project. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say serverless create, we're gonna go template, AWS, Node.js, path is gonna be the current directory. You can go on their website if you want to find other templates, Python. They also have some more built out projects that'll have a database and some more jazz if you want that. But today we're keeping it simple. And as you can see, we now have a getignore file, a handler file, which holds our function code. And then we have a serverless file, which is going to be how we interact with AWS. So you can see And just kind of imagine this under the hood, you write this code, but it has to get to AWS somehow. This code says nothing about it being a Lambda function. And so that's what this serverless YAML file is all about. I'm going to clean up all of these guys. They're very useful, but for now we did not need them. Wait, is that function? Did I delete a function? I did. Okay, we're not going to delete the function because we need that. So this file, as you can see, is what is going to tell AWS, hey, this is a function. The name of the function is hello, and you can find hello. Handler is just another name for like, where's the code at? You can find it under the handler file and the hello object of that file. So we can see, or no, the hello function, I'm sorry. We can find that under handler hello, and you can see this is handler hello. For me personally, I'm going to mix up the file structure because this is just a lot cleaner, especially as you go to writing more code. So I'm going to call this first lambda.js. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this code, copy it into here, and instead of calling it hello, this is going to be the handler. Great. So what I'm going to do is delete this file, and this will give you an idea for how this is working. So now I'm going to say, this function can be found under first lambda, the name of my file, and it's actually going to be functions first lambda dot handler, which is this right here. Great. I'm also going to call this first lambda. This is what it's going to show up as in our service, and we'll get more of that later. So here is some initial setup we have going on. I'm going to do is just keep this nice and simple, and I'm going to exit out of here for now. Now we're going to write our code. So in order to do something a little more complex, what we're going to do today is write a function that parses a CSV file and turns it into JSON. So what we're going to do is I have this file, and what we're going to do is we're just going to imagine that we are building a bookstore, and we have this list of books. It's a CSV. We want to get them ingested into our application. So that's our mock scenario that we're dealing with today. In order to write this code, we are going to need a package called papaparse. What we're going to do is npm install papaparse, and we're going to see this is going to autocomplete for us. We're going to say, yes, we need this. Great. And this should give us, and oh, you know what? You know what we need to do? Package, where's our package JSON? Old lock file. Okay, this is what we're going to do. npm init. Since we have a new project, so in order to have packages, we need to init, just enter through all this fun stuff. Now we can see a package JSON file, and we need to reinstall papaparse. Okay, there we go. All right, so now we have papaparse. This is just going to allow us to go ahead and parse our files. I already have some code here. I just don't want to belabor and make this a JSON to a CSV to JSON tutorial. This is a how to get a Lambda function tutorial. So I'm just going to copy and paste this code. If you're interested, feel free and read about it a little more. But what we have here is we're taking our current stage, we're going to read a file in, we're going to convert that file to JSON, and we're going to return the JSON data. As you can see right now, we still need to import papaparse. We also need to import our FS module, which is default to Node, so we don't need to install it with npm. And I am going to run this. You'll notice it will not run because of this stage, but we'll see what an error looks like. It'll be good practice. So what I can do now is before I'm just going to run it. It's going to fail, and we're going to figure out why. So what you can do to run a file is go serverless invoke and we're going to do this locally since we're just testing. Invoke local, and we're going to go stage is going to be dev. We're going to say AWS Profile is going to be Dylan, and we're going to say the function we are going to call is called first Lambda. First Lambda. Okay. So there's going to be a few things wrong here. This is likely what you're going to run into. You're going to say, wait, Dylan's not configured. And so with serverless, if you don't explicitly say a profile, it's going to go to whatever default profile you have set up on your machine. But I like to, especially if you're working for your job, be specific with the profile. You don't want to accidentally push some changes up to prod when you're just trying to be in dev. So what we can do to fix that is we can go code/.aws/credentials. There we go. And so this is going to pull up our credentials files. I'm going to say remember, open. And this is going to have all of my AWS files. As you can see, it didn't work because there's no Dylan profile. There's an AWS Dylan profile. And so what you need to do in order to get your AWS profile is you're going to follow this convention, but you need to go to IAM. And so I'm going to pull up the AWS console here. We're going to go +++. We're going to go IAM. Open US East 1. Let's just make sure it's global. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to users. You're going to add a user. You're going to say first Lambda user. If I were you, I'd just say your name and give it programmatic access. If you don't need console access for this, so we're going to skip it. But write your name there, and then you add them to. You probably don't have groups set up, so we can just go to existing policies, give it administrator if this is your personal coding, if you're just doing this for yourself, but be aware that this does give all access. So if you were to have this get hacked, someone could do anything to your profile. So just be aware there's some light risk there. And what you're going to do is you're going to take this access key, you're going to copy that, you're going to paste it where it says access key ID, and then it's going to show this secret access key. You're going to paste it with the secret access key. Of course, this is all blurred out because if it wasn't, you could get into my profile. So once that's all set up, remember this name, and that's going to be the profile that we go from. If you don't want to write AWS profile, make it your default, and you don't have to do the flag, but I would really suggest it. Our profile is all set up. Now let's try invoking this again. So we're going to go AWS Dylan first Lambda. Great. I'm going to make this error. No such. Okay, we got our first error. Great. No such error. Burst a list, undefined. Okay, why is that undefined? Let's check it out. We can see this stage is undefined. That's because we're using an environment variable. This is a great time, great practice to use environment variables. This can be just if you want to do stages, or if you have API keys, any of that fun stuff, you can just put it all in here. But what we're going to do is underneath our provider, we're going to go environment, and then we're going to make our stage variable. This op stage shows that it can be an option in the command line. And if there's no stage provided, we're going to default to dev. Another couple great things to do here is we're going to do a region, and we're going to default this to US West 2, but we're going to say ops region, and then if not, West 2. Do whatever region you are closest in. And then with provider, great. Okay, so now that we have that, let's give it another whirl, see how we do. Invoke local, great. So you can see we took this data, which was a CSV file. Now we return an object of our data. Perfect. We have working code. It is now time to put this up into AWS. I just want to reiterate right now that there is no code in AWS. If I go to my AWS profile, if I go to Lambda, we are not going to find anything about a first Lambda function. So I'm going to go to Lambda. We're going to make sure we're in US West 2. I can always trip you up. And then we're going to say first Lambda. Let's just search, and we can see nothing here. So right now we are all local. This is great. You test your function locally, you do all your debugging, and now what we can do is get it up into AWS. So what we're going to do is we're just going to say serverless deploy, and we're going to do our same options. We're going to say stage dev AWS profile AWS Dylan. Great. And so I'm going to hit enter, and we're going to watch, and what this is going to do is you can say it's creating a CloudFormation stack, which is just under the hood deploying it to AWS, and we are going to take this Lambda function. If you were to have another Lambda function, you would just go and say second Lambda handler, and you would do the same thing. You can keep going down. But for now, we're just going to deploy one function, and we will wait. Another thing to note is that this books to list dev will also be up there. The packages will also be up in AWS as well. So all of it's getting packaged up. It'll take a second the first time, but as you deploy again, it'll go faster. While we're doing this, one thing that's common is you want to run something on a schedule. So what you can do is you can say events, and let's say I want to run every hour. I can go and say rate 1 hour. And what this is going to do when I deploy it is every hour this Lambda function is going to get run. Alternatively, you can use cron notation. I prefer I believe they call it the rate notation. It's really awesome what you can do. Since this is the first video, I won't get too far into it, but no, there's more you can do there. Service deployed, functions, first Lambda, it's going to be called my first Lambda, dev first Lambda. So that's the name of your service, which is my first Lambda. That's like the name of the folder or service. Dev is the environment, first Lambda is the name of the function. So what we can do is go back to AWS. Now we're gonna see if it deployed. First Lambda, refresh. Aha, there it is. We can see here's our code, and it's there. What we're going to do now is we're going to say, hey, I want to invoke this function, but I want to invoke it in the cloud. So what we're going to do is we're going to do just that. And how we're going to go ahead and monitor that is we're going to come to monitor, we're going to come over to CloudWatch, and the return value of our function, any of the logs, will be in here. So what we'll do is we're going to look for log groups. We're going to find and do a little dev my first Lambda. Great. We can see no log streams. Nothing's happened in AWS. It's just been local. So what we're going to do, I'm going to come here and I'm going to invoke it. Once again, we're signifying, yep, let's do first Lambda. We're going to say, great, we got a return value. Come over to CloudWatch, refresh this puppy, and you can see, hey, there's a stream. Awesome. You can see it fired. Great. If you were debugging this thing, you could say something like, console.log JSON data, and this, sometimes if it's an object, you need to stringify it. Stringify JSON data. Okay, so now that'll log into CloudWatch, and you need to deploy to AWS -f first Lambda. You need to deploy to AWS in order to see those changes. So here we go. Configuration did not change, deployed, okay. Now we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna run it again. We're gonna come back to the log group, we're gonna refresh. Okay, let's see if it stayed in here. No, sometimes it takes a second. There it is. All right, and we can see JSON data, there's our JSON data, just like that. Which is awesome. Just so handy, so quick. I'm gonna refresh this, and you'll notice this is just a little tip, but you'll notice that our trigger didn't get added, and that is because you need to deploy the whole service in order for that to go. So if you're deploying, if you're just deploying the function, it's only gonna check out what's in this file and related packages. But if you're gonna edit the configuration of the Lambda in here, you need to deploy the whole service. That's what we're gonna do, and that's gonna be the last part of our tutorial, is just showing that, hey, yeah, we can trigger this every hour. I guess one quick thing I'll also point out is that you go to configuration, we can see our environment variables, see our stage is dev, which gets populated when we deploy as well. Great, so we will wait for that. All right, we are all deployed. Now let's go over, we're gonna check out our function, gonna refresh and see, great, here's a CloudWatch event, and we're gonna run every hour for this function. And that's it, guys. After this video, am going to delete this and re-upload so it doesn't run every hour, but that's how you get started with Lambda functions. As you can see, this can really grow to make a whole application, especially once you start hooking in databases and all that fun jazz. This was helpful. I'm so glad. If you have any other questions, any details, please drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Or if you have an answer, please answer someone else's question. It'll make their day. Hope you have an awesome day, and we'll see you next time.